afternoon from Calcutta. It is afternoon in Calcutta, a rather rainy and wet afternoon in Calcutta, and it's good to be starting this series for Cuckoo News today. Why? Because, as many are pointing out, 335 years ago, in the year 1690, Job Charnock, the Englishman, landed at a ferry ghat in North Calcutta in or near what is now Nimtola Ghat. But there is controversy over whether he founded the city. Someone I know, Tathagato Niyogi, an archaeologist and historian who conducts lovely walks in the city, has pointed out in his Facebook post today that Calcutta cannot be said to have a birthday because the city grew organically. When Job Charnock landed at or near Nimtola Ghat, there were two Calcuttas that existed in the Mughal documents that trace back to 1692, 2 years after Job Charnock landed. And one was called Dihi Kolkata, a small fishing hamlet roughly in the area of modern-day Dalhousie Square or BBD Bagh, and the other Pargona Kolkata, a Mughal Pargana of which the village of Govindpur, roughly where the Maidan is today and now Fort William stands, were a part. But that was 335 years ago. With me is Dola Mitro, Chief Editor of Cuckoo News, and she brings to us in today's edition of the Sunday Statesman a full-page feature on what Kolkata looks like today through the eyes of a French photographer. Dola, apart from being Chief Editor of Cuckoo News, is of course editor features of The Statesman, and this is her full pager. Dola, can you tell us about this story?
Yeah, I'll tell you about the story. Before that, if I can comment a little bit about what you were just mentioning, that is the landing of Job Charnock in 1690. There is not much controversy about that. The controversy centered around whether he founded Kolkata or not. Now, he has been credited as the founder of Kolkata, but in the 2020s, mid-2020s, the Shabarna Roy Chaudhary family contradicted this claim by saying that their ancestors had leased the land that to Job Charnock rather than having sold it. So the Calcutta High Court decided that it was actually Shabarna Roy Chaudhary's family which are the rightful owners of that title as the founders of Kolkata. Now, Job Charnock what he had done was that 335 years ago is that he had accessed these three large villages, which were Govindpur, Kalikata, after which the name Kolkata has came about, and the other village was Shutanuti. Yeah, that's right. So this is so now the controversy has rested because the High Court did decide that it is not Job Charnock who should be the rightful, who should not claim to be the founder of the city.
Now, of course, we will come to this story because Dola has this wonderful book, the Bengal book, and we'll come to about, and she has researched and written about Calcutta. We'll come to this book a little later in this episode.
Thank you. Okay, you wanted to know about this story in The Statesman today.
Right.
Now, the thing is, this wonderful book by a French photographer, Alexander de Mortemar, has brought out this wonderful coffee table book, which has not yet been globally launched. It will be in October. Now, I have had the fortune of meeting him and his wife Rima, and they gifted me this wonderful book at the pre-launch. And what essentially he has done is that the photographer has done is that he has, for over a period of 5 years, walked around the slum areas of Kolkata, capturing images of, portraits of people and places, but not in the sort of, the cliched, the focus was not on the squalor or the, or the poverty, but rather the strength, the unity which keeps them together, which is in this ostensible chaos. What is the unifying factor? What is the strength that keeps them going? So this, thank you, Shujan, for, selecting this as one of the stories to be focused today on our first episode. But this is essentially, I've written about the book with some images from the book. Right? So
Right.
Thank you very much. I hope you get a chance to read this if you want to. The online link is also available on the Statesman website. All right?
Right. And sticking to the theme of Kolkata or Calcutta, we had this big development this week when the Calcutta Metro network, the oldest metro in India and in all of South Asia, expanded. So essentially, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in the city and he inaugurated the full east-west corridor. The east-west corridor, and this is from the Telegraph Metro. Dola and I will have an argument about which is the quintessential Calcutta newspaper. I did mention earlier that it was the Telegraph, and Dola argued no, it was the Statesman.
It's the Statesman because the Statesman is one of the first English newspapers to come out from India, in fact, if not the first. So I would say that is the quintessential English daily, the Statesman. Of course, yes, Telegraph. I'm not denying that the Telegraph is also equally important as a quintessential English daily today. But because we both worked in the Telegraph, and Shujan rather, especially, I have a tendency to say Sujan, which is he always corrects me and says no, the Bengali pronunciation is Shujan. So I stand corrected. So Shujan has worked in the Telegraph as he has been with in the Telegraph for many years. So he thinks that this is the quintessential English daily. So we have an ongoing argument about that.
I was both in Calcutta and Delhi. The apprehension is that tomorrow, Monday, will be the first working day for the new metro network. The east-west corridor called the Green Line essentially connects Howrah with the business hub of Sector 5 in Salt Lake. People are anticipating there will be a huge rush in or near Sector 5, and whether the transport and infrastructure is ready yet to deal with that rush. But we will see what happens tomorrow. Sticking to the Telegraph, there is an important story that is not, there are two important stories I would like to touch upon. One is, of course, it's not Bengal or Calcutta based. It is about the appointment of the new US ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, by Donald Trump. This story and its interpretation by, it's a byline story from Anita Joshua from the Telegraph New Delhi Bureau. She writes that Gore is Donald Trump's personal pick, but he will be wearing two hats, not just as ambassador to India, but also Donald Trump's special envoy for Central and South Asia. Such an appointment was questioned by journalists yesterday during an interaction that the Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar had. His response, of course, was, I am the Foreign Minister of India and I cannot comment on ambassadorial appointments by foreign countries. But a former Foreign Secretary, Nirupama Rao, has said, Trump has openly said Gore will push his agenda, and there is no mention, as far as I am concerned, of strengthening US-India ties. After years of what might be called honeymoonish relationship between White House and South Bloc, it now seems India and American relations have hit a rocky road.
Like most marriages.
Like most marriages. But there is another story that really caught my eye. This is another full pager in the Telegraph's Sunday page called Graphic. And it is a rare occasion when the Telegraph uses a Bangla font, a Bangla type, to express the news. It's titled Amio Bangali. It touches on a very sensitive issue today, where many Bengalis, whatever their religious denomination might be, have faced persecution in a lot of states in India, to the extent that the Bengal Chief Minister, Mamata Banerjee, has asked Bengali workers to return and she will give them shelter in Bengal. It carries a write-up by the Telegraph's Upola Sen, but more importantly, this full pager has photographs of a lot of notables, Bengali notables, including Amartya Sen, the economist and Nobel laureate, including Amitabh Ghosh, the writer. But one of the quotes that really stood out for me was from Mehtab Hossain, football player and coach, and he says, the Bengali mind, education and culture are different. It is our education, the respect we pay to both the old and the young, the ability to live with others in peace and harmony. And I am a follower of Swami Vivekananda, and I live by his teachings of simple living and high thinking. What do you think of that?
Yes, I think this issue, this issue has suddenly become very sensitive again. Bengalis have often faced, persecution in various parts of, of the country. Now the thing is that when, of course, there was in 1905 attempt to divide Bengal, at which time this whole issue once again came up. Bengali speaking people stood together and said that we are always united. Now, the recent situation, I think, has escalated ever since there have been suspicions that a lot of Bengali speaking people living in different parts of the country, they have been accused wrongly, rightly, we don't know, because we are, this is something that the law will decide. But I think there's this whole idea that anybody who's speaking Bengali is Bangladeshi, and the whole idea that this is going to be a cause for persecution is obviously extremely wrong. So this fear that has been created within the communities of people who are speaking Bengali, this is extremely disturbing, and I think that we should all come together to to see how we can solve this. Now, everybody who speaks Bengali is obviously, they're not from Bangladesh. Not that there is anything wrong with that, but the persecution should be should stop definitely immediately. And I think as far as the issue is concerned in Bengal, I have noticed a trend also that Bengal. I've written about this in my column in the Statesman. Is that there is a tendency to to try to impose other languages. Even in Bengal, I see people speaking other languages and refusing to speak Bengali. Now, I am very against that. If I feel that if I go and live in a country or in a state where I will try to learn that language and speak that language, the opposite is happening where people are being told, I've also interacted with people who are working in companies, executives. They have been apparently instructed not to speak in Bengali, and I take a stance against that, obviously.
Yes, and it's a very strange thing to happen because, in the Para where I live in Calcutta now, after returning here for 25 years, even last year, the Durga Pujo committee was headed by a Tamilian. We are a very cosmopolitan people, but it is the imposition that
Yes, exactly.
it is the imposition that really annoys many of us. But sticking to a rather grim story and something that concerns a lot of people who live outside Calcutta, whether abroad or whether elsewhere in India, this is about crime against the elderly. Calcutta, the Bengali diaspora, from the state and the city, they go out for livelihoods, for work, for
In
business
various parts of the country, the
and
world,
the world.
yeah. So
And there's a rather grim story in the front page of the Times of India's Calcutta edition. And this is from New Godia in South Calcutta. The headline says, Aya of 5 days, partner in cocknet for killing 79-year-old New Godia woman. Apparently, they had hired a professional caregiving service for elderly parents, and this woman was murdered by one of the employees of the caregiving service. I do not mean to run down caregiving services. I have been a beneficiary of caregiving services. My parents used to live in Calcutta when I was in Delhi for many years, and I had hired a professional caregiving service, a couple actually, and they were very sensitive, and they had given us a very they had helped us in many ways at very crucial and critical times.
So it's again, this is where first, if I may interrupt for a minute and just tell our audiences, viewers, is what we are essentially trying to do is that many of you who are from Bengal, or are not just Bengalis. I'm talking about everybody who is interested in knowing what is happening in India, Calcutta, in Bengal, Calcutta. So we are essentially selecting a few newspapers and trying to give you an idea about what are the newspapers covering, what are the important stories of the day. And Shujan has been trying to select, because we cannot obviously give you all the content, it's going to take a long time. So he's been reading all the newspapers and deciding that we will share with you some of the important news from various. So now that you've selected this very important news about, it's a very important issue, because this is a trend now that elderly parents who live here and their children, they're pretty helpless in the sense that they have to because of work and their livelihood, it takes them to different parts of the country, different parts of the world. So the elderly parents are left to care for themselves. So what they're essentially doing, their children, are often, hiring the services of caregivers, just like Shujan was telling us about how he and his brother, I think,
Yeah.
you also, hired the services of a wonderful, they turned out to be a wonderful caregiving group. But unfortunately, as today's newspaper, the Times of India report, I think, pointed out that there have been cases where the people that are supposed to be taking care are actually, they turned out to be the attackers. It's a very sad news, horrific news, and I'm very shocked every time I hear attacks on the elderly.
But I remember the kind of help they used to give. It is very difficult for the elderly, for example, to deal with digital technology. Something as simple as an ATM card, a debit card. I remember my parents had problems going to an ATM, withdrawing cash, my father his pension. And these people, the caregivers, actually helped in many ways, and they could,
Yes.
help to sustain them.
So when you read these reports, now the thing is that it's easy to say, okay, now we are not going to hire caregivers. So, but it is a problem. It's a menace, of course. But like any other crime, we cannot completely discount the idea that they have to be, these caregivers are now very essential part of our lives. So what do we do about it? We would love to hear your comments on that. Is that, how do you know who will be, who will actually provide the right kind of care, as they found out that they had, were fortunate by the grace of God to have found the right people. But today's disturbing news also points to the fact that mishaps can happen, and you can, so I think it is essentially essential to be careful on who you choose. If you are going to select somebody, maybe you can talk to people who have hired them and had good experiences, rather than trusting your elderly parents with just anybody that So I think it's important to be very careful. Just like your children, you don't want to leave them with just anybody. The same with parents. I think maybe that is a solution, because I'm always looking for a solution to such problems,
Right.
Yes.
But staying on that somber note, this is today's Anandabazar Putrika. Again, grim news, but it's important news that we need to keep pursuing. Anandabazar has on its front page, from its staff correspondent, this story that you may have heard or read about the horrific assault on a student at the South Calcutta Law College in Koshba. The Calcutta police have now filed a charge sheet against the people who were found accused in the first place. চার্জ শিটে মূল অভিযুক্ত মনোজিৎ মিশ্র সহ তার দুই ঘনিষ্ঠ পড়ুয়া প্রমিত মুখোপাধ্যায়, জয়েব আহমেদ এবং ধৃত নিরাপত্তারক্ষী পিনাকি বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়. 4 people have been charge sheeted. This was a crime that shocked the city, coming as it did a year after the rape and murder of a doctor at RG Kaur Medical College last year. And that issue is yet to be resolved. The case is on in court. We have a story in Bardhaman that is important for the facts and the statistics that they have brought out. Though Bardhaman clearly takes a political view of things, and this is a 6-column lead. This is from New Delhi. It is saying that the central government has been asset monetizing, basically selling off public sector units to rake in money, to selling them off to the private sector. And over the last 5 years, 1 lakh central government public sector employees have lost jobs. In its typical way, it has started with an exclamation mark, Modir বেসরকারীকরণ, exclamation mark, 5 বছরে কর্মচ্যুত Lokhadi Kendriyo Kurmi. This is grim. They have brought out in a graphic the statistics of this privatization efforts. But before we end, we will come to Dola's book. This book has got renewed interest. We hope in further episodes in this very important year leading to the elections in Bengal to come up with more interesting stories from Calcutta and from around Calcutta and Bengal. And this book is like one reader told Dola day before yesterday from when he had visited this big bookstore on Park Street that it's gone into a reprint and there are plenty of editions. It's called the Bengal book. This book was published 2 years ago, but the renewed interest is because of the elections and people want to read about Bengal before they start covering the elections. We have the author. We are privileged to have the author of the book as our chief editor. So Dola, please tell us. This is not academic work. This is very readable journalistic history and excellently, elegantly written. Please tell us about the book. She delves into her ancestry too in the book.
Yes, my ancestor, great ancestor, Govindaram Mitra, who incidentally is also, he is also credited with, having created a lot of the iconic, iconic areas of the, present day Kolkata. So I talk a little bit about that. Of course, there's not a lot of documentation on Govindaram Mitra, but but he was a very crucial part of that time, just before when the Battle of Plassey happened, when Siraj-ud-Dawla was defeated by the British and then the British Raj began. So I have brought this out in the book. Now, I didn't know that Shujan was going to spring this surprise on me because essentially we were meant to talk about, this is our first episode and what we are essentially trying to do, as I was just telling you earlier, is that we are reading he's a voracious reader of newspaper, consumer of news junkie. So it was me, I suggested, why don't you tell or people living in various parts of the world and different parts of the country who are interested in knowing what is going on in Bengal, since you are aware of all this, why not share some of this news with
we'll
viewers.
come to that later. I want to stay with Dola's book here.
I don't know what to say about
when she was writing this book and when it was going into print, she was very careful about choosing the cover photograph. And I remember her telling me, and because it's also a rainy and wet day in Calcutta, it's a good time to bring this up.
The river actually plays a crucial role in this book, because I kind of centered
the river plays a very crucial role in Calcutta.
It's a key, exactly. So the river, Ganga and Bengal. So my whole story, the narrative is actually centered around the river, and so I bring that in. And so I was very insistent that the cover should not reflect one of those sort of cliched, iconic, ideas of Kolkata, like the Howrah Bridge or the yellow taxi or the rickshaw puller, but it should be a view of the river, and a river during a storm, because that's what the book really is trying to, that's a metaphor, of course, a river during the storm. And Bengalis have always weathered storms. Okay, so this is essentially what I wanted to bring out in the book. And so thank you for
that's a lovely note on which to end this first episode, that we began with the arguable founding of a city by an Englishman named Job Charnock and ended with this lovely history written by Dola Mitra.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Stay with us and give
Stay
us
with
your
us.
feedback.
Yeah.
Nomoshkar, Bhalo Thakben.
Thank you very much. Bhalo Thakben. Nomoshkar.